President Olusegun Obasanjo says Nigeria is very divided and there will be need for healing and national reconciliation. The Labour Party leadership saga continues as Lamidi Apapa takes over the affairs of the party. Hello everyone, welcome to the program. This is Politics Today live on Channels Television. I'm Sheon Kimale in Abuja. Let's bring you up to speed with what is happening in the Labour Party. The leadership is still jolted over the crisis that is been hit over the past days. But today, some members of the National Working Committee of the party have taken over the National Secretariat in Abuja, where they held an emergency National Working Committee meeting on the current state of the party. The members, led by Mr. Lamidi Apapa, who is the Deputy National Chairman South of the party, says he is now the acting National Chairman, while Mr. Saleh Lawan has been declared the acting National Secretary. Mr. Lamidi says that this is as a result of a court order restraining the National Chairman, Julius Abura, and 3 other NWC members from parading themselves as national officers of the party. Take a listen to a man who is now referred to as the acting National Chairman of the Labour Party.
The National Chairman of our party and 4 other officers were restrained by Abuja High Court not to parade themselves as officers of the party. This is based on allegation of perjury, forgery, and so on and so forth. And because of that, this National Working Committee emergency meeting is taking place. Because in an occasion like this, there is no room for vacuum, and therefore, this National Working Committee meeting has graciously appointed me as the acting National Chairman of the party, while Alhaji Saleh has been appointed as the acting Secretary of the party.
That is the interim National Chairman of the Labour Party, Lamidi Apapa. But Mr. Julius Abure, the National Chairman, says he remains the leader of the party as a court of competent jurisdiction equally gave an order barring any official of the party from suspending him as a National Chairman. Mr. Abure says the actions of the Lamidi-led team is illegal, which was why it resorted to the use of thugs and security officials to take over the National Secretariat of the party. An action, he says, is temporary, as the said officers are not known to law. He called on all well-meaning members of the Labour Party to remain calm, as the issues will soon be resolved with the rule of law prevailing. Tonight, former President Olusegun Obasanjo has said that the nation is largely divided, perhaps more divided than we have seen in its history, and there is a need for healing and reconciliation. Well, if that is to happen, how? What is really healing? What is reconciliation? How do we achieve all of that? That is going to be one of our conversations tonight. But also we will go to Kogi State, where there is an agitation of what a lot of Nigerians are not unfamiliar with, and that is the issue of rotation of power. There are now those who are saying that if the state will be fair and the political actors will be fair, power needs to shift. Where to? We'll be hearing from one of the aspirants tonight. Plus, we discuss more on the National Assembly politics. There are a lot of maneuvering and a lot of politicking going on the ground that we do not know, because some of it happened in the night. So we'll be telling you more about the National Assembly politics. This is our menu for tonight. But first and foremost, let's check out some of your political roundup stories.
Thank you, Sheon. Good evening. I am Kayla Megwa, and these are your political roundup stories for today. The Inspector General of Police, Mr. Usman Alkali Baba, has reiterated the commitment of the Nigerian police to the security of the citizens in the country. He stated this during the decoration of the newly promoted senior officers of the police force at the force headquarters in Abuja. He charged his men and officers not to lose guard in their places of duty.
I call on you to deploy your wealth of experience towards supporting the force leadership in addressing current and evolving internet security challenges.
The governor of Kaduna State, Nasir El-Rufai, has commended the people of Rivers State for making the right choice of voting Bola Tinubu as president in the last presidential election. The governor was in the South State, where he commissioned the Eneki-Iweche Link Road in Obiakpo local government area of the state. Governor El-Rufai hailed his counterpart and host Nyesom Wike of Rivers State for backing power rotation to southern Nigeria.
On behalf of our presidential candidate and our party, to thank you and the good people of Rivers State for making the right choice in voting for Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu.
The People's Democratic Party in Rivers State has continued their protest at the INEC office for the fourth day. The protest is led by the Deputy Speaker of the State Assembly, Edison Ehie, and the Chairman of Ikwere Local Government Area, Samuel Nwanosike. Today, serving our newly elected National Assembly members, led by Senator Barinada Mpigi and Representative Kingsley Chinda, joined the protest. Addressing journalists at the INEC office, the federal lawmakers urged the Commission to respect the rule of law in the handling of sensitive electoral materials.
Anything can happen inside INEC strong room here. So we are of the total opinion that if anybody must inspect any material, it must be a joint thing.
For the second day running, youth of Idato South and Idato North State constituency are back at the premises of the Independent National Electoral Commission INEC in Imo State, demanding the release of certificates of return to members-elect of the area who were declared winners of the March 18 State Assembly election. The protesters this time are accusing the INEC National Commissioner for Information and Voter Education, Festus Okoye, of plotting to upturn the results of the March 18 results in Idato North and Idato South constituency, where Johnson Duru and Okechukwu Udeze were declared winners respectively, in collusion with the opposition parties.
Please, we are shouting and we have come to mandate INEC to issue the certificate of return.
A coalition of northern youth under the aegis of Arwa Young Professionals in Politics is asking the leadership of the All Progressives Congress to zone the position of the Senate President to the southeastern parts of the country in the interest of equity and fairness. A group told a press conference in Kaduna that zoning the Senate presidency to the southeast will promote national unity and cohesion. Leader of the group, Mr. Yusuf Amoke, also asked the APC to zone the position of the next Speaker of the House of Representatives to the northwest zone as a compensation for the significant role in the victory of the party in the presidential election. According to him, ensuring that the leadership of the National Assembly projects the nation's religious diversity will foster a sense of belonging for everyone.
We are urging the APC leadership and the president-elect to carefully consider the need for political inclusion in the 2023 power equation.
A human rights lawyer, Mr. Enibehe Effiong, has petitioned the Independent National Electoral Commission INEC over what he says is a plot to rig the April 15, 2023 supplementary elections for the Abak Federal Constituency of Akwa Ibom State. At a joint press conference in Uyo, the state capital, Effiong alleged that there's a plot by the PDP and the resident electoral commissioner, Cyril Omorogbe, to stage manage the supplementary election in favor of the PDP candidate. In the same vein, the APC candidate Clement Jimbo wondered why he was not declared winner of the contest in line with the relevant sections of the Electoral Act, having polled 2,962 votes. According to him, the action was deliberately orchestrated to scuttle the will of the people in the constituency. Ahead of the April 15th supplementary governorship elections in Adamawa State, the Finti Farata Project 2023, a PDP support group in Adamawa State, has passed a vote of no confidence on the resident electoral commissioner for Adamawa State for his alleged role during the March 18 governorship elections in the state. The group also condemned the transfer of the head of ICT in Adamawa State to INEC headquarters in Abuja, describing it as an attempt to perfect plans of rigging out the governor, Umar Fintiri, who is leading in the race.
We are determined against all odds to resist any attempt, irrespective of the sources, installed or programmed to interfere with the outcome of the forthcoming supplementary election.
And from Bauchi State, Governor Bala Mohammed is promising the people of the state better performance in his second tenure as governor. Governor Mohammed gave the pledge while inaugurating the transition committee constituted to ensure a seamless transition to what he called a higher level of performance for his second tenure. The governor also inaugurated the technical committee, which is saddled with the responsibility of reviewing the blueprint for the Bauchi project and map out new strategies for developing the state.
The terms of reference of the committee are as follows: to examine the roadmap of my Bauchi project and its level of implementation so far.
Those are your political roundup stories for today. It's back to you, Sheon.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Kayla, for those stories. Now, we are now up to date with some of those stories across the country. So let's begin tonight on the issue of the healing of Nigeria. Former President Olusegun Obasanjo is advocating for reconciliation, moral realignment, and the assuaging of the youth in order to ensure the healing of the country. Chief Obasanjo, who was speaking at a book presentation in Abuja, says that the divisiveness which was made manifest in the recent election and the events that have passed has been more pronounced in the elections, and there's a need for healing and a national reconciliation to be organized by the incoming administration. Let's take a listen to former President Olusegun Obasanjo.
Given what we saw during the elections, Nigeria is now even more divided and more corroded than we thought. This places a deep onus on any administration following the current one to urgently facilitate the process of national moral rearmament and national reconciliation that the potential to enhance healing for aggrieved and bereaved persons across Nigeria and to assuage the youth. This must be done in sync with the imperative of national value reorientation that Nigeria requires to build a collective sense of enduring and noble values and national belonging.
What does this mean? Coming from a former president, Olusegun Obasanjo, and some of the political debate that came before that election, and this kind of statement coming from that former leader, what does this mean? What is even healing? What is reconciliation? How do we go about it? Are we ready for it? Well, does it behove on the incoming administration to be led by Bola Tinubu? I'm being joined tonight by a democracy advocate and senior research fellow at the Center for Democracy and Development, Professor Jibrin Ibrahim. Thank you, Prof, for joining us tonight.
Always a pleasure.
Thank you so much indeed. Coming from former President Olusegun Obasanjo, saying that Nigeria is perhaps more divided, do you agree with that position, first and foremost?
Well, I think so. I was actually at the event. I was one of the panelists at the event. Mm-hmm. And maybe we should start from the title of the event itself, which is a return to governance and performance, which is itself very pregnant with meaning, mm-hmm. saying that we are just coming out of a period where governance has been very poor, if not absent, and issues of performance have not occurred. The other element of the governance regime we are getting out of is the excessive show of nepotism within that government in appointments. And that created a situation in which people felt excluded from governance. And that was the context in which President Obasanjo was making a plea to resist and turn back the clock on the divisiveness that has marked governance in recent years, and a new focus that will be based on inclusiveness and making people feel they belong to Nigeria's political system. So I think that's the context. And the real plea he was making, and I agree with that, is that the incoming government has a responsibility to address that serious that serious lack of governance that has characterized the regime, and try to bring a sense of belonging to the people of this country, especially the youth who have always felt excluded, have always been excluded, and this time around thought the elections will give them an opportunity to affirm themselves as players in Nigeria's political terrain.
So, Prof, apologies to cut in, but let me ask, because there are those who disagree. I say, oh, look, the disagreement we see during elections are not the true tendencies that we see in our nation. And for those who think that we have been more divided than before are not right. There are those who are of that school of thought that, in fact, I mean, this divisiveness has always been there. And that it's not as if there is anything different. We have always been divided by religion and ethnicity in our politics. But this time around, it's no bigger than what we have seen in the past. Do you agree with that notion?
Well, I feel there's a context issue, which is to say we're just coming out of an election, and that election created shock results. People who thought they control politics in specific locations discovered that others also have a say in the political process, and outcomes would not necessarily go the way of people who feel they control the political process, which is itself a very positive development in our electoral and democratic system. But that created a lot of fear and panic, especially within very powerful forces. And whenever powerful forces feel threatened, they tend to put one more gear in the politics of divisiveness. They tend to promote more ethnic and religious divisions, so that, as it were, they can better control their own troops.
So there are
two elements. There are two elements in the divisiveness. The 8 years of governance we are coming out from, which is considered to be a period of intense nepotism, and electoral outcomes that created shockwaves among powerful actors.
Would you also say or agree with those who hold the notion, Prof, that these tendencies that we're seeing, it's not natural, it is not organic, in the sense that for a Yoruba man and an Igbo man to think they're not together or they're not never on the same plate, that has been mechanical, that has been created by some politicians from their own selfish reasons, like you have said, that we're coming out from a process. But would you say that that there are people who intentionally use these tricks to divide our nation? Do you see that playing out or played out in 2023 election?
Well, I definitely saw a lot of that play out in these elections we are just coming out from. There was a deliberate use of very aggressive and insulting language against certain people whose core citizenship was challenged. People who are told they are not from here, you have no right to even vote. Every Nigerian has a constitutional right to vote. So when you tell somebody that he doesn't belong to the community, therefore you are going to deprive him or her of their constitutional right to vote, you are creating a very intense emotion of exclusion among members of the community, and that certainly heated up the political atmosphere.
So, I mean, I'd like to ask you, as an objective and independent person, if you look at the tendencies that we have in the country, the powers that be, the ruling force, and the opposition, and the voice of dissent, would you say that one has been fair to the other in terms of the engagement in the post-election era?
I think in the post-election era, I did note the spokesperson for the president-elect have been extremely aggressive and provocative in a lot of their comments. I see a lot of their statements laced with threats, intimidation, that, look, we are coming into power, you therefore better start behaving as we want you to. And I think it's very unfortunate because the president-elect himself, Ahmed Tinubu, came out with a very strong reconciliatory message calling on Nigerians to come together to heal the wounds. In fact, some of the words he used were the words President Olusegun Obasanjo used this morning in his speech. So that was the message I had from Tinubu. But that message was not carried by all his spokespeople. Some of them tended to be extremely aggressive and were threatening people they considered in the opposition. And that's really a double jeopardy. Somebody has just lost the election, and rather than calm him down, you think the best attitude is to be aggressive towards them and to threaten them. I think that's completely unbecoming. And that contributed to heating up the politics.
Yeah, so on the side of the opposition, has the opposition been reasonable?
I think so. You see, one of the things I said before these elections is some within the opposition were overconfident of the success they anticipated they would have at these elections. And I think they did get significant success. But for many of them, they felt anything run of outright win of the presidential election would be going against their own calculations of outcomes. So they were in a position, I think, of unreasonable expectation of the outcome, and that might have created very strong emotions within them, and they did express their doubts over the elections. And everybody who loses an election may be right to express doubts. As one famous politician told me once, after losing a community elections, when every day in that house they buy bags of rice and feed the entire community, and when it came to the vote, that community that ate their rice every day never came out to vote for them. And that creates shock and surprise within some people, and they may overreact. But I didn't hear or see anything that was extraordinary or that justified some of the threats that were being directed at them.
Now, if we are to look forward to a reconciliation, how do we justify it legally? So I'm looking at the process. How it looks. Does it look alien to our legal process or our democratic dispensation or process, such that for us to know exactly what to do? Under what premise of law do we take the issue of reconciliation? We've seen it happen in Rwanda, in South Africa, when people are divided, when people are at loggerheads. We see how the crises are being resolved. But in Nigeria, if we were talking about a national reconciliation and a national unity, this is perhaps to a Tinubu presidency that will be installed on 29th of May. If you are to advise, where would they start from?
Well, I think the first point to make is that reconciliation is never a legal process. The legal process is about justice. Who won, where, what. So that establishes the facts, as it were. Reconciliation, on the other hand, is a political decision. First, let's not forget we run a first-past-the-post electoral system in which the winner takes everything and the loser has nothing, and therefore has concerns over why all these resources spent and what do I get at the end of the day. But when there is strong feeling about an election, what is good for the winner to do is to step back and say, we are going to all continue to live together. I don't want this level of anger and anguish to continue. Let me make political moves to make them feel less bad about the outcome.
Prof, look, I like you too. So let's talk practical, and I love the manner in which you approached it. Looks to me that something that will warm the hearts of the opposition, or those who feel aggrieved, or those who feel this is a double whammy. We lost election, yet you're behaving towards us in this manner. But if you were Tinubu, for example, Prof, what would be your first practical move? Let's assume you get into office within the first 24 hours. Or what do you think should be going on in the mind of Bola Tinubu right now? If you were Bola Tinubu in the first 24 hours, what political move would you take that would be in the line of national reconciliation?
The first political move will be to say the legal system will not be used to intimidate unfairly any person for words they may have uttered that would have annoyed somebody. The second move, which is even more important, is to accept that these opposition parties and their actors are legitimate players in the political system. It's to have a discussion with them. What can we do to make you feel more included? There are a range of possibilities. In the past, in this country, for example, what are called governments of national unity have been established, in which members of the opposition have been appointed ministers, for example. But in some of those experiences, some members of the opposition feel quite rightly, that's not what I want. I don't want to be a minister in your government. I'll wait and contest the next election and take over power myself, which is legitimate and correct.
We've had,
so you don't know what is it they want. So you have to have an open discussion, a sincere discussion, and negotiate something that they will feel makes them feel less bad about what has happened.
Maybe call for some kind of a little conference, not maybe too much of a large talk shop, but maybe a room filled with leaders of opposition, and sit down at the table and say, look, these are our problems. These are our problems. What are your propositions? Do you think that could happen? Do you think a Bola Tinubu, for example, could call a Peter Obi, an Atiku Abubakar, or a Kwankwaso to the table? Do you see that happening, politically speaking?
Well, I think it would be a very smart move for Tinubu to do that, to sit down with them. It doesn't have to be a discussion over what will I get in power. It could be, for example, they've expressed dissatisfaction over elements of the elections. They feel some of the sections of the Electoral Act could be improved. So that could be, for example, a very good topic of discussion. What is wrong with our electoral system, and what do you see, what do you propose as a solution to continue the process of improving that electoral system? That is something that will be useful for everybody, and out of that you can reach an accord on how to ensure that the next election would be better than the one that we've just gone through.
Let's close this conversation, and I like you, maybe in 60 seconds or thereabout, Prof, maybe you can help me tend to these concerns. One is the fact that how urgent do you think Bola Tinubu should attend to this matter? Do you think it's actually very critical? I mean, I've had people on the program who said, in fact, it's the first and the most important thing that an incoming government should attend to, the issue of national unity. And someone has suggested here that if he were president on the very first day of assuming office, that is what he would tackle. Do you think so?
I think my sense is that these discussions don't even have to wait till he's sworn in. No action can be taken till a new president is sworn in. But before then, you can start a conversation. Of course, matters are in court, and you have to make sure you do not bring discussions on matters that are already in court. But the general issue of how do we create a climate of inclusiveness can be done right now. And I feel it will be good for that reaching out to start, for that conversation to start. And once a new government is formed, then that conversation could be concluded and specific actions taken.
Although we've heard that from the other side, when the issue of government of national unity came up, they said, no, it's government of national competence that they will put together. Well, in 20 seconds or less, Prof, if you can tell us, do you think that the climate of disunity in the country questions or put a question mark on the legitimacy of the mandate of Bola Tinubu?
As far as I'm concerned, the mandate is a clear mandate, except if the courts see otherwise and inform us otherwise. But I do think he has a mandate. The election results were quite clear, and except for matters of law that are being handled in the courts right now, I don't feel there's any question mark on the mandate.
Professor Jibrin Ibrahim, a very senior fellow with the Center for Democracy and Development, CDD, and a democracy advocate. Thank you so much, Prof. It's good to see you, and thank you so much for your intervention tonight.
It's a pleasure.
A part of our series on setting the agenda for the Tinubu presidency tonight is being a national unity conversation. And we do hope that Prof's free consultancy will be taken by the incoming government. We'll take a break, everyone. And when we come back, we'll talk about National Assembly politics and the leadership issues, the jostling for the office in the National Assembly. And we'll also deal with the Kogi governorship race. Now, the bigger questions about power shift is also happening in Kogi State. We have one of the top frontline aspirants in the APC who will be joining me after now. Stay with me. I'll be right back. Thank you so much, everyone, for staying with us. Let's just now talk about politics. The Kogi governorship race has effectively commenced with the process towards the primary election in most of the political parties that have taken off now in different parts of the state ahead of the November election. But there are being agitations for rotation of power. The agitation for power shift to the western senatorial zone of the state is getting louder by the day. They usually call the Okun area of Kogi State. Some arguments on principles of equity and fairness is getting more attention, and support for an emergence of an APC governorship candidate of Okun extraction is being advocated loudly. Tonight, I'm being joined by one of the governorship aspirants in the APC in Kogi State and a sitting senator representing Kogi State in the National Assembly, Senator Smart Adeyemi. He joins us live here in our studio. Thanks so much, Senator Adeyemi, for joining us.
It's my pleasure, baby.
Yeah, so you want to transit from being a senator to being a governor. Well, let's talk about the election of 2023. I know I've seen you in and around Bola Tinubu, and I know how some of the roles that you play in that. But those who have questioned, there's been a lot of agitation after the election towards the outcome. Those who have argued that the election wasn't free, it wasn't fair. The conduct has a big question mark on it. What's your reaction on that?
Okay, let me begin by saying that I'm convinced that last election was one of the best elections ever organized in Nigeria. This is so because notwithstanding some of the pockets of violence, which is normal in a developing nation like ours, the fact is the election was one of the best in contemporary Nigeria.
What are the indices that gives you that?
It was so because I'll go to that. The introduction of the beavers helped to reduce fake PVC that were being used over the years. How come the APC, the ruling party, didn't win in their stronghold? How come APC lost Lagos? How come some APC governors of the ruling party didn't win? How come top members of the APC lost their ward? Because some people didn't just win, you now want to paint everybody black? There's no doubt there are pockets of violence. But this election opened our eyes to the fraudulent practices in quite a number of states of the Federation. we are able to see the reality of the numbers. In fact, the guy who invented the beavers, Nwafo, so he deserves a National Merit Award.
Chidi Nwafo
he deserves a National Merit Award. How come some governors who aspired to be senators lost out? How come they lost out in their own state? So when people make argument, they make the argument from their point of, from selfish point of view. The fact that you didn't win should not make you to now condemn a whole system. I'm not saying it's a perfect system, but this election that brought in Bola Ahmed Tinubu and Shetima happens to be one of the best in contemporary Nigeria today.
Is that one of the reasons? Because people lost?
The people are condemning it because they lost, and there's this assumption, you know, some people sleep or they're in their comfort zone and do calculation because you see some 5,000, 3,000 people on the street, and you see somebody has won election. Do you know how big Nigeria is? Quite a number of Nigerians do not know the size. They don't know the sentiment, the norms, the value system of Nigeria. They do not know how complicated this country is. Now, until when you move around the nooks and corners of this nation, before you appreciate the nation called Nigeria. So some people judge Nigeria within their state. Some of people look at Nigeria within their geopolitical zone, and they assume that is Nigeria. Nigeria is a huge country. And to win a presidential election, indeed to win any national election, you need to go around the 36 states, not just the 36 state capitals. You need to network and penetrate the local government, cutting the barriers of the norms and values.
But for Senator, does that validate your point that this election was free and fair? You gave one reason, and for those who believe that the election wasn't free and fair, they have several reasons to defend their point that this election was fraudulent and this election was deep in a whole lot of manipulations, and they will give you reasons that the votes that came out in the end are not the exact figures that of the elections.
That is not enough to condemn the system. What I'm saying is this. This election was free, was fair. Even in the US, that is not to say there wouldn't be some fast guy who want to touch the figures, but that notwithstanding, when you look at it holistically, you come to a conclusion. Is this election good enough to go? Very good enough to go. And when you talk about someone winning election, a presidential election, you look at the personality. You see, becoming the president of Nigeria is not a child's play. It's not what you wake up in a day or two. You need to have built the network, the relationship across the norms and value, across the barriers of Nigeria. Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu is not a man of today. He's a man who over the decades have been building relationship, networking, touching lives across the divide, north, south, east, west. Asiwaju is not a man of today. He didn't win the election today. Asiwaju has been a man who has built people. I'm one of the products of Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu. But if I don't tell you, you don't know. So Asiwaju is a man who believes in talent. He has raised people. He has trained people. He has supported young generation. At that time, he was supporting people like us on 20 years, 25 years ago when he was the governor. So today, if you see me campaigning for Asiwaju, you think it's a matter of today. Asiwaju has been a large army of people in the southeast, in the west, in the north, in the east. So to become a president, it's not by getting 1,000 people on the streets and say you are popular. No, it's about building solid relationship with people and people getting to know what you stand for, that you believe in the future of the younger ones and you empower them and you encourage them. Those younger ones of those yesteryears, they are the adults of today who are cutting the show. So Asiwaju didn't start today.
Why is this growing and nagging agitation against the victory of Bola Tinubu by the opposition?
It is a normal thing you expect. Because when people have a kind of fixation, a kind of belief that they have won the election, and when some people who do not know politics sit in their comfort zones and they are predicting figures, you know, election is not what you win in a month or 2 or 3 of campaign. Election is what you prepare for over the years. You build relationship, you build bridges across. Some of the people who are talking today, they forget the fact that Nigeria is such a complex nation. They are capitalizing on some sentiment. And what's the sentiment? The sentiment of the fact that Bola Ahmed Tinubu and Shetima are both Muslim. But notwithstanding, there are Christians who have benefited, who knew these people over the years. So the anticipation of some people was, oh, there'll be total vote of these Christians against Bola Ahmed Tinubu and Shetima. It is not so, because these are people who have been around over the years, and these are people who have built bridges. So people had that assumption that, oh, this election we're going to win.
But
unfortunately, many Christians voted for Asiwaju.
The question of division that the outcome of the election has left. And so those who have said, look, Nigeria may not have been, has not been this divided, and there's a need for healing and reconciliation. What do you say to that?
There's no doubt that once there's an election, there'll be a kind of sentiment and the vision. But over the years, over the months, people are almost getting settled over the result. Some people assume what they anticipated was not the result they got. So you can understand the human reaction.
Do you have this feeling that there is a lot of anger in the land? That Nigerians are upset? That many people feel out of the equation of the nation called Nigeria?
See, I speak my mind at any point in time. And let me tell you the truth. I hold the view that this election was free to a large extent, better than previous election. And those who are feeling bitter, they just have to wait for the next election. The fact of the matter is, this guy, the two, Asiwaju and Shettima, they're just the popular ones, contestants, and they won. They do not have baggages and issues that will warrant people not to believe them. Asiwaju has built his reputation, his image over the years. He has built men. He has a track record of service. Shettima is one of the best brains I have met in the Senate. I'm a third-time senator. And I can tell you that Shettima is one of the best, highly celebra. Okay? And when you meet such people, you cannot but give in. So those who are upset for now, we can understand.
No, I'm not even talking about opposition party versus the party that won. I'm talking about the average Nigerians. And I'm asking, as a senator, do you have that sense that there is a lot of anger in the land? A lot of people feel that they are calculated out of the national calculation of Nigeria.
Maybe the privileged, some privileged class of people who had their business calculation with the opposition. Don't forget, Nigeria is such a complex society. When you see some people taking position, they're doing that.
You don't think that poverty is prevalent?
Poverty is part of it.
You don't think that there are reasons, economic and moral reasons why people are agitated?
From that perspective, yes. But don't forget that we have a global economic recession. Don't forget that until recent, what was the pump price of petroleum products, the crude oil, for instance? Nigeria was totally down. What was our production capacity? Nigeria was down. Don't forget that under this outgoing administration, at the time, the crude oil was selling for $10, $5. So over the years, in the last few...
You don't feel that there's a failure of the political system in Nigeria that's causing the anger?
I do not believe
increasingly,
absolutely.
Maybe...
Yes.
Okay, so let me take you away from this, because one of the reasons why I invited you, it was about the Kogi situation.
Yeah.
So you've obtained your nomination form?
By the grace of God, I'm in the race to contest, not just to contest to win. And I'm doing that against the background of so many reasons. I've challenged all the other aspirants in APC. Maybe you want to host us for a debate here. I'm challenging them to come and tell me what, because quite a number of them are members of the outgoing government. Let them come and tell Nigerians what they want to do and what they failed to do in time past. And I will tell them what they didn't do and what I want to do. Okay? You see, governance is all about the people. It's all about empowering the people, socio-economic development, building infrastructures, expanding the scope of economic activities, creating wealth, creating employment, paying the retirees, paying the workers as at when due, expanding those things that will help to galvanize socio-economic development, maintaining peace, and making sure that you emancipate the people socially, politically, and economically. That is all governance is all about. And I'm well tutored. Let me tell you, I've graduated over the years, okay? I'm not a newcomer to governance. So I know exactly what my state needs. My state needs exposure. It needs a new state. I want to come up with a radical approach to development. Kogi is one of the richest states. I'm sure you'll be surprised.
In terms of natural resources,
resources, right? Out of the 32 solid mineral resources in commercial quantity in Nigeria, Kogi can boast of 27. Kogi, for now, is one of the oil-producing states. We are strategically located to utilize the advantage of our location of the neighboring state to Abuja, to produce abundance food for the city, to create wealth emanating from the God-given resources. Right. As I speak to you, there are 2 other cement companies that are constructing cement factory in my central district, apart from Dangote.
And Kogi, so we're endowed people. Kogi is centrally positioned in the center of the country, near to Nasarawa, near to some part to Edo, near to Kwara, close to Ekiti, part of Ekiti. And I mean, it's centrally positioned, so it could be a hub for so many things, commerce and all what have you. But let's talk about the politics side of things. Have you informed your governor about your interest?
My governor is aware I'm contesting.
Okay.
And when you contest an election, I have no problem with my governor. He has done his utmost best. He has tried to secure the lives and properties of the people. He has been fair in a political appointment in the state. He has done his best. But I'm coming with a new perspective to that leadership.
He's your political leader, isn't it?
He is my political leader.
He gave you the chance to be senator,
he supported my coming to the Senate.
So do you think that, have you approached him personally to say, you're running for office?
Well, he's aware. I told him, he asked me to go ahead. And don't forget that I have very good reason to become the governor. I am from the Kogi West Central District. In the last 32 years of the creation of the state, we never produced a governor. We are not a conquered people. We are not slaves. Nigeria can only have peace, stability, and development when there's fairness and then when there's justice. In fact, the world is governed by fairness today. How come the northern governors, in their sense, which Nigeria for a long time be appreciating, the northern governors came to a conclusion that the presidency should be zoned to the south. Why did they do that? If they didn't do that, maybe Ashwaji wouldn't have won. But the northern governors wanted peace, unity of purpose, and decided to say, let the presidency ticket go to the south. These northern governors are the modern nationalist statesmen that we should appreciate. In the same way, the doctrine that made APC to allow the South to produce, to a large extent, the candidate for the presidential election. That same doctrine is what we have to do in Kogi, for Kogi to be united. And come and look at it. After the election, we saw the voting strength of each central district. For information, Kogi West came second because there was no room for manipulation. The beavers helped quite a number of states and exposed inadequacies and corruption in the electoral process in Nigeria. Fake PVC could not be used.
But in time past, Kogi West has been seen politically in terms of the numbers as the least senatorial district.
Before the use of the beavers.
Yeah, so now you've seen that Kogi West is not as low in numbers.
It can be because 75% of what constitutes the state capital is part of Kogi West. So how come we are going to be, Kogi West will be taught? The people are now aware. And what will define Yaya Doza Bello as a statesman or not is whoever is going to support for this election. He must rise above sentiment. He's a good guy. Take it from me. Yaya is a good guy, but he's surrounded by people of questionable character who are misleading him. See, Kogi West will vote for a candidate from West. For the past 32 years, we have not produced a governor.
Is that the only reason why the power to shift?
The power must shift.
How? I mean,
it has to do
by
the doctrine of fairness.
Is that the only reason? Just because you have not produced in 32 years?
Not just it. All the other aspirants have challenged over the last 2 months. Let us come and face Nigeria, not just Kogi people. Let us come and speak as to what you are going to do. See, whatever anybody is telling you is capable of doing, what you need to know is to find out his antecedent, what he's professing, and what people are saying about him.
So, at least 4 people that I know have obtained nomination from the cabinet. No, from the cabinet.
There are more than 4.
Of at least, I said 4. At least 4 of them that I know.
Yes.
In the cabinet of Governor Yaya Bello.
Yes.
And every one of them have their legitimate right to want to be governor of the state.
Very well.
Isn't that loud enough about maybe the position of the governor?
You see, winning the ticket.
Sorry, and I'm bringing this, apologies, and I'm bringing the governor into the fray because he's the leader, is the #1 leader of your party in your state. We're not talking about general election, we're talking a party election, which he plays a major role.
Now, let me say this, that winning the ticket is not winning the general election, the governorship election. That you have the ticket of APC will not translate to automatic victory for you. If a candidate is bad or is not acceptable to the people will revolt. They will vote against the candidate. Gone were those days that people will just vote. People are enlightened now, okay? People are more educated than before, politically. People are aware of what others have done. The people are aware of the benefits some people derive for the fact that the power rested in their domain. So people are educated. I don't need to tell Kogi West people to vote for me. I don't need to tell them why they should vote for somebody from West. For 32 years, we have been voting others. We are not a conquered people. Common sense, fairness dictate. The world is governed by fairness. How come that Russia has not been able to overrun Ukraine? The war will not allow it. There must be fairness. So even in war, there's fairness.
But, I mean, there are 3 senatorial districts in Kogi State. So you are mentioning Kogi West as the one that has not produced. And there are other senatorial there is another senatorial district that feels partially the same way.
That's not very correct. Kogi East. They had the opportunity. They ruled Kogi for 19 years, Kogi East. Then Central. Yaya was lucky, he came. I was his DG campaign. And we mobilized all the heavyweight of my Central district to mobilize our people to support him for a second term. And he won, and he has just concluded 8 years. I think Nigerians should appeal to Yaya Doza Bello to consider the doctrine at the national level of APC of fairness, which made us to have one of the best candidates that Nigeria will ever produce as president, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu and Kashim Shettima. So that's in doctrine that APC, why did APC resorted to zone the presidency to the south? It's because they want the unity of Nigeria, sense of belonging, and for everybody to be happy.
What do you say about competence?
Are you in doubt of my competence?
No, I'm asking the question. Instead of the sentiment of power shift.
My antecedent speaks for me. I'm highly educated, I'm exposed, I'm intelligent, I'm courageous, and I know the needs of my people.
Is that what makes a governor?
More than 70% of what I've said make a governor. A governor must be somebody who is passionate about the well-being of his people.
What does the people of Kogi State need now?
Yeah, what they need now?
What do they need now? Do you know?
Of course, why won't I know?
What do
they need? Basic social amenities. As I speak to you, not pushing me to talk too much. As I speak to you, Kogi cannot host an national conference.
Why not?
Why? Because we do not have an international conference center. I want to build one on the River Niger. We do not have an airstrip that is functioning. I was the immediate past chairman of aviation. Within 3 months, I will make Ajakuta airstrip to be functional. I will open Kogi to the world. Kogi is endowed. We have every resources that is needed. We have all the
airstrip. When you have an airport, you have international and local airport just 35-40 minutes away. What about a train service?
What about those who want to come to Kogi for a weekend? Indigenous of the state want to come in and go out.
The people that will question the economic viability of an airstrip.
Yes.
You know, and if you go to America, there are a lot of places where you have 2 hours away before you can find 1 hour away before you can find an airport. I mean, looking at how much it will take to put an airstrip compared to, how frequent the segment of the volume of people, the volume of traffic.
The volume of economic activities of Kogi will demand us to have in the airstrip. The volume. Don't forget that Iron and Steel Complex is about to commence operation. Don't forget that we have 3 big cement plants in the offing. Don't forget too that there are quite a number of people who want to visit just to look at the state. Don't forget that Kogi, Lokoja, the state capital, it happens to be a former capital city of Nigeria. Don't forget that it is a place that will attract tourists to come. And the tourists who will be coming from abroad, wouldn't want to take the risk of coming by road. Okay? So we're going to put the airstrip there. We're going to ensure that Ajakuta Steel Complex is working. We're going to create wealth. We're going to empower the youth. We're going to go into agriculture. We're going to make sure that God-given water resources there is utilized to go into hectares of rice plantation.
Let's close this conversation, Senator. And I have my last question is in 2 folds.
Yes.
And quickly too. First is, should your governor say, I don't want you to run smart, what would you do?
I don't think he's going to say so, because...
What if he said so?
Because he's aware I'm a Democrat. He's very much aware that as a journalist, as former NUJ National President, there were times myself, Yusuf Ali, who is now the regional editor of of the Nation newspaper in Abuja were arrested when we were spearheading the enthronement of democracy. We suffer for democracy, not as much as some of my colleagues, but I was not immune to it. I was arrested many times too. So we were part of those who enthroned what they are enjoying today. Nobody born of a woman will ask me not to contest election. It is my constitutional right.
What if your party does not?
My party would do that. If they wouldn't do that?
What if they do not zone to your senatorial district?
Well, they stand the risk of facing the challenges of feeding a bad candidate. Don't forget that election, more importantly, with these beavers, it's not a tea party. You need to feed a candidate that is acceptable, that has the network, that has the reach. And don't forget, people want a break from the past. I'm part of Yaya Doza Bello.
If you don't emerge the candidate of your party, would you leave for another party?
When I lost the primary election, or when I was not allowed to win the primary election, I said something on the television, that politics must be synonymous with integrity. I'm a man of integrity. I'm a man of honor. So I will not petition the party, but I will not force people to vote for an incompetent person because it's in my party, or somebody who will not be fair and just to my people because he's in my party. I'm not going to do that. I would rather tell my people, this is the reason why you should not vote. It's democratic.
So for you, this is a fight to finish?
It's not a fight to finish. It's a struggle.
All right. Senator Smart Adeyemi, Senator representing Kogi West in the National Assembly. Thank you so much indeed for your time tonight, and I wish you the very best.
It's my pleasure. God bless you.
Thank you so much. We'll take a break, everyone. And when we come back, I'll let you in what happened in late night. I told you that some of the politicians are nocturnal beings. They meet at night to get to know what happened last night and perhaps the politics of the National Assembly. Stay with me, everyone. We'll be right back. Thank you so much, everyone, for staying with us. So yesterday night was another meeting of new members of the National Assembly. They've been meeting, and one we saw about 2 days ago, those in the House of Representatives. We had a conversation yesterday about the intrigues that could happen in the coming days as we anticipate the inauguration of the 10th National Assembly. And so yesterday they met in a hotel in Abuja. And let me allow you to listen to these new senators-elect and what their views are on the leadership of the 10th National Assembly. Take a listen.
The advantage of having this platform now is anybody who feels he deserves or he wants to lead us should be able to come to us and tell us why it should be him or her. And we should be able to ask that person certain questions. What are the values the person wants to entrench? What are the agenda, or what is the agenda the person wants to promote in the 10th Assembly? Because you see, anybody that has been voted this time around must have gone through a tough battle to have emerged. And we don't want for a split second for anybody to just assume it's business as usual. Oh, these senators. No, we all have our little integrity from anywhere we are coming. So we want to make sure whatever we are doing, the country first. We want to make sure we do things that Nigerians will be proud of us, and we want to help to redeem that name of the Senate.
Thank you so much, everyone. So you heard him. He's a senator-elect from Kwara State. So you heard Honorable Abdulmumin Jibrin yesterday, his own permutations, his own reading of the situation of things. Let's get some other perspective tonight. I have joining me here in the studio a returning member of the House of Reps, representing Ekiti in Ekiti State in the House of Reps, but he is also re-elected now. Honorable Femi Bamishele, thank you so much, Honorable, for joining us tonight.
Thank you so much.
How's it coming?
Great. We're managing.
Well, how come the politics of the 10th National Assembly is getting to a feverish pitch? It's getting so intense.
Sean, you would expect this to happen. I mean, the elections, the executive elections are over with. Now we're coming into the legislative elections. And you respect all this that is happening for now. And you would even get alter in weeks to come.
So we were able to get this out of the way yesterday, whether or not the threat that we're hearing, that because of the numbers, and by now some of our viewers are very much familiar with the numbers as it stands in the House of Reps. It is known now that the APC, your party, has 160 members that have been elected out of the 326 of the 360 seats available. So 166 other numbers of the opposition or the minority lawmakers. That means they have more numbers. And the rule is that they all put together. If they vote as a bloc, can even your party vote as a bloc?
That's what I'm saying.
That's a possibility. I'm even saying, can the 160 members right now in your party vote as a bloc? Because it doesn't look like you're together.
Yeah, we all have individual minds, without a shadow of doubt. But let me make this very, very clear. You understand? The hallmark of constituted democracy in Nigeria is the separation of power, without a shadow of doubt. And any executive that you look at that wants to have good policies and good governance in this country should understand that they should be part of getting involved in the two other arms of government. So for me as a person, it's crystal clear, we might not all be voting in the same direction. You understand? But I can assure you, for the minority that comprises of about almost 6 other political parties with different ideology, would not even stand together. Not even PDP that has probably 105 or 6 or something.
Okay, do they have up to that? Yeah, they have about 100. Yeah,
that's right. And don't forget, this majorly, most of these votes that you're looking at are new people coming into the House. There are people, obviously, there are other lawmakers who've been in the National Assembly for the 7th or the 8th Assembly who are returning, but they're not up to 25. Majorly, over 200 if I can use the word, neophytes coming in fresh into the system.
So, and it means one thing, they're not enshrined in the system. They do not understand the system.
That's right.
So that means that they are likely to be more fluid in their thinking.
Without a shadow
other than
of
some of you who are system lawmakers, who are been returning lawmakers, that you have you are casting your ways, you might have, but you are in the minority. So they are in the majority.
They don't misconstrue.
They could be revolutionary in their approach of voting, isn't it?
The crystal thing is, I don't want to go into so many informations now because.
Please go into it.
No, I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why. There are a lot of underwater games going on. You said clearly, and we learned that the opposition had a meeting, the collective political parties put together at the meeting. But were you told that they came out of that meeting on agreeing on anything? And that's the way it's going to work. The strange bird fellas coming together. So you wouldn't expect anything coming from that. But outside of that, majorly, what I heard yesterday, listening to a run of what our brother came here to say, talking about there is a stipulated particular candidate who can win 95% of the votes. That's absolutely wrong. And it's wrong and absurd for anybody to have said that.
Let's begin the conversation from that point. I mean, from that angle, before you get deep into that. And so it's established now that there is a rule, a standing rule, that the party with more numbers stands as the majority party in the House.
No doubt.
Yeah, and they have conventionally.
No, when you say more numbers, don't get it twisted here.
No, the party. I'm not saying the group of different political parties. The party that has more number. In this sense, the APC. Right. So the APC has the prerogative to determine the leadership.
That is it.
So they will have the majority, the presiding officer roles, and of course the majority leader role, isn't it?
No doubt.
Is it given?
No doubt.
So that's what your standing rule says.
Without a shadow of doubt.
So because we are hearing again that maybe that was not cast in stone, but we got it clear, and I've read part of your rules which says that it's clear that the majority party carries the day, has the prerogative to determine. Now, so in this sense, they are saying they are in the majority, they're in the minority, and they are on the same page. And they will steer the affairs. They will steer the kernel of the voting pattern the way they want it. Is your party aware of this tendency?
Without a shadow of there's nothing that happens there that we don't know of. Don't forget, we're a party that is totally embroidered in Nigeria. We have our roots all over the nation, and we have our people everywhere. And we're talking even to the opposition, the leadership of the opposition. It makes it very clear, it becomes strange to us when you hear things like this, that someone would say they have a number of 165 to upturn what happened. What happened in the 8th Assembly obviously would not and cannot happen in the 10th Assembly. That much you can be sure of.
Your party is planning to do a zoning meeting.
Without a doubt.
When is that going to happen?
I really can preempt the party by saying exactly when.
But that will happen.
It sure will happen, without a doubt.
I mean, from what you see and the calculations on the ground, is the president-elect involved in all of this? Or how deeply is involved?
I just told you, I just gave you a narrative that any executive that is going to throw out good policies for good governance of the people of this country and would be able to work with the legislative arm and the judiciary must have a hand in some processes that goes there. Does not mean that they will determine, it is the right of lawmakers in the National Assembly to determine who governs them, who leads them as principal officers. But without a doubt, the executive has a role to play. And what is this role? Through the party, by zoning. What brought this president-elect? It's zoning. And we can't go away from that.
Do you agree that your party should zone in the pattern of the 1999 when Olusegun Obasanjo from the Southwest and Atiku Abubakar of the Northeast emerged as president? And we see this happening. Now we see the same thing playing out again. Bola Tinubu all from the Southwest and Kashim Shettima from the Northeast. And so there are those people who argue that whatever happened in 1999, let's use that template.
No.
Do you think it's fair enough?
No, it's not fair enough. There's so many tendencies that are different now, and we need to be as fair as we can get.
Okay.
One of the reasons that brought our presidential elect into office is the pattern of zoning and arguing that he has to go back to the South. And when you got to the South, it was tilted between so many people within the South, Southeast, South, and Southwest. But Southwest made the day. So this time out, I make it bold to tell you that what needs to be fair has to be fair. If you look at the Northwest, which is the argument of a whole lot of people saying that they are the highest votes, don't forget by percentage ratio, the Northwest has only 16% because they could only deliver 1 or 2 out of their states. No, 2 states out of 7 states. The North Central had about 4 out of 6, which is about 77% of the ratio calculation, whereby the Northeast had only 1 out of 6 states. So this clearly tells you that a pattern of reward needs to go into this. So for me, my simple argument to this is every zone should have a placement into the narrative that we have put up. There's 6 principal offices, 2 has gone away, South, Northeast, and Southwest. So we're looking at 4 other zones. And in looking at these 4 other zones, preference is that the North Central, by its grace, should actually get the speakership of the House. If we're looking at Southeast or South-South going for the Senate president, it's just fair for North Central, who has given percentage ratio of over 70-something% to be given the chairmanship of the Speaker of the House of Reps.
So in your own fair distribution or pattern, you are saying we should not look at, because in that republic, in that time, we had the Senate president from the Southeast, we have the Deputy Senate President from the North Central, we have the Speaker from the Northwest, and we have the Deputy Speaker from the South-South. That's what we had.
Then in 1999.
At that time.
Yes.
So you said we cannot have it.
We can have that now because the scenarios have changed, analysis have changed, percentage ratio of voting has changed, and majorly for fairness, equity, and justice, you need to look at a particular zone that has not tasted that speakership for a very long time. The only time I think they had it was during the Shehu Shagari administration for about 3 months, which is the North Central. I think it's just fair. But I mean, we're not preempting the party, but I'm almost certain when the time is right, the party will do the zoning. Don't forget again, as political animals, most of us, or majorly, close to about 80 lawmakers that are returning out of the 360, they've differently pitched their tent to various ends. You understand, to work with. But don't forget the 200 and whatever, 222 as we speak as of now, that are undecided. And these guys will determine majorly where this would go to.
I mean, are you sort of being swayed now by the personalities that are involved here? If you're saying the North Central should have the speakership, so where would you suggest,
for me,
just a moment,
yes.
Where would you suggest, for example, the Senate President to come from?
I'm looking for fairness, Southeast, without a doubt.
Okay.
Yeah.
Deputy
And
Senate President?
Northwest.
Okay. And Speaker? North Central. And Deputy Speaker?
Could be either South-South or Southwest.
Really?
Yes.
When you have a Southwest president?
Without a doubt.
And you think that is fair?
It is fair.
So let's look at the names that have come up now. From you saying North Central, and you have said for your party, these are the people that have delivered. So it's a case of the percentage of those who have delivered for your party. So the region that has not delivered should be punished.
No. If I said the region that did not deliver should be punished, Southeast won't take the Senate President. For fairness, equity, and justice. They've been alienated for so long. Yes, they've not delivered, but I can give you a synopsis here. When you keep beating a child out of 3 in the house, what happens? He will feel not part of the family.
Let's look
but
at
the moment you offer that particular child some kind of leverage within the family, the child comes back.
Let's look at the names that have cropped up from the House of Representatives now, where you are arguing for, and every day more names are coming up. Okay. But this is what we have so far. Those whom we know, one way or the other, were heard that they are interested in these positions are the names on the screen.
Okay.
In the House of Representatives for the speakership position, Idris Wase is from the North Central.
Okay, yes.
Like you're mentioning.
Yes.
Yusuf Gagdi from the North Central.
Yes.
We again is from the North Central there.
Sonny Jaji.
Sonny Jaji. Yeah, those are the 3, isn't it?
Yes,
that are from the North Central.
That's right.
So yesterday, Honorable Jibrin was saying that 95% of lawmakers today would have gone in the way of Aliyu Betara.
That's absurd. I mean,
you don't agree?
No, that's absurd. Is he contesting for speaker now in the Night Assembly? Because when you say today, because the elections will be coming up 13th of June, and you're bringing in 80 returnees, about 80 returnees, and over 200 and something, 230, 240 freshers coming into the House. Out of the 230, 240, are about 25 who had served either in the 7th or the 8th Assembly. So they still don't make those numbers. So where did he get a simple arithmetic to determine where the 95% is coming from? Is he saying the 95% of the 80 that are returning? Or 95% of the entire House?
You know the reason why, for a moment, I had to listen to him? Because Abdul Mumin comes with some level of expertise in producing speakers. So, and I know, just a moment, and I know that he worked for the emergence of Dogara to become speaker.
That's right.
He was the DG of Femba Jabiamila to become speaker.
That's
so
right.
if he has done that, those are 2 consecutive National Assembly. So if he has done that, I mean, shouldn't one listen to such a person?
That's his opinion. He's not part of the Night Assembly.
And I'm not saying that whatever he says is golden.
That's what I'm saying.
But I'm saying that
is his own
perhaps you
personal...
listen to someone who has done something. If he's done it by error once, if he does it second time, would he say it's an error?
If he was part of the Night Assembly, I probably would have listened to him. He's not part of this particular bunch of people now.
He was in the beginning, isn't it?
At the beginning. Now, to me, he's considered a fresher, even a senior guy coming in now, because a lot of that happened in his absence. So the formation of the new...
So you understand better what is going on?
Without a doubt, I was part of the process that worked for the emergence of Femi Gbajabiamila. I was. So there's nothing new in that formation that we all don't know about. And I'm backed with a very strong resume too. As a former speaker, I understand the legislative arm of government. So for me, it is absolutely wrong of Abdul Mumini to have come here to categorically mislead the entire nation or those that are coming into the National Assembly.
To give his own opinion.
To give his own personal, yes.
And it was categorically stated here.
Yes,
and I said that is his opinion.
That's right.
And he has a right to it because
without a doubt.
He has a mandate here and he has a certificate of return. So he has an opinion to choose. He has a vote though.
He has a vote.
You have a vote also.
Oh, without a doubt.
And so, I mean, from what we see, and we have mentioned 3 people that we know on that list who are from the North Central.
Yes.
In terms of competence, who amongst them do you think has your vote or has...
Trust me, without having to say so much. Yusuf Gadi, we came in at the same time with Deputy Speaker of the State, Plateau State. We're all still learning the ropes. But I may say that. Sonny Jaji too, I think was an 8th assembly member who is just returning back now. This could be his 2nd or 3rd term, but he's been exempted in this night assembly. He has a lot to learn from not being part of the night assembly.
Even as a ranking member?
Without a doubt. There's a lot of things that happen at the legislature on a daily basis. There are a lot of things that happen on a daily basis.
All right, conclude now.
And for me, Idris Wase, who has served as a deputy speaker, not even deputy speaker. This man has ranked, he came into the 2 elections through AC, in the days when AC was not so much in vogue in the northern part of Nigeria. He won 2 elections back to back there. He came in through the formation of APC. Now he's been in government. He was in a minority. He was a deputy minority leader, a majority leader to Femi Gbajabiamila. This is twice that he's serving Gbaja. Now as the deputy speaker of the House, when you talk competence, he knows it. Don't forget, and I want to add this for Nigerians to understand.
We need to close now.
Yes, let me add this quickly for Nigerians to understand. The president-elect was a former lawmaker and the former governor of Lagos State back to back. The vice president-elect is a president-serving senator and a former governor back to back. These people are coming on the turf, hitting the ground running. We would not. And Nigerians are not interested in having a go-between kind of lawmaker or speaker who doesn't understand what would happen.
I love these things when it's getting so intense. It makes the politics very, very interesting. Thank you so much, Honorable Femi Bamishele, for joining us. We'll see how this pans out in the coming days. Let there be a contest of ideas. We need to move this nation forward. Let the best man win in all of it, wherever the person is coming from. Also, equity, justice, and fairness should prevail in our politics too. Thank you so much, everyone, for watching. I'm sure Kimberly, I'll see you tomorrow at 7 p.m. Bye-bye.